Hello everybody and welcome back to the Leeds Lens. We said yesterday if anything dropped, because I'm not working today, we would go live. Well, a big story has just dropped. And finally, it's Graham Smyth with the exclusive today, and he is saying that apparently there has been a surprise bid from Beşiktaş for Lucas Perri. Now, I'm very interested to see what you guys all think about this. I think the conception, I imagine, for a lot of people will be, why are Leeds United not taking it? I haven't seen yet. It might come out as we go live about the price point that sort of Beşiktaş are looking at for Perri. But from what I've seen, I haven't seen a price point yet. But I do think, regardless of this, we can still sort of go into detail about sort of where we're at with Lucas Perri. We know we've talked about Perri potentially moving on and leaving in the summer, we thought. But actually, it looks like there could be a potential a suitor for Perri in January. And I also think we always talk about with Leeds United, when Leeds United make bids, that there must be a bit of a feeling that this deal could happen. Maybe Perri's indicated to Beşiktaş that he is available to join as well. We know he's obviously been dropped by Daniel Farke in recent weeks too. So yeah, where are we all at with this? Before we get into all that, if you could help the channel by dropping a like, subscribe, all that good stuff does massively help the channel. The support on yesterday's video about Strand Larsen was out of this world good. So if you could continue with that level of support, it would be fantastic. And also, as I said, if you are new, you can subscribe, all that good stuff, because I'm a small channel. It does massively help me. But yeah, where are we all at? Because I think with Perri, when he first sort of joined the football club, you sort of go through his time at Leeds United, and I think he has suffered at times with unfortunate events. Like, you remember when he first came to the club, and he obviously, I think Graham Smyth mentioned this in an article as well, that he's obviously suffered with this sort of niggling injury at the start of the time, and we know from sort of what we've seen with Perri, I think that has been a problem. He didn't really have the proper piece pre-season they're expecting. He was in and out, obviously, pre-season with Lyon. There was massive trouble over there when he first joined. And as he's come to the football club, it hasn't quite been a sort of steady road for him, especially, as I said, with injuries and getting dropped with from the first team as well, obviously, for Darlow. So it's been a constant battle, I think, with Perri. The only thing that I have always felt with Perri, though, and I've said this a few times on the channel, and you guys will know this who watch all the time, is I never really have felt like he's ever really secured himself as our sort of number one. Maybe he has at times, and I think that's when he was bought with the club, that was the real intention. But I never felt like with Perri that he's ever sort of looked like he's ever going to be good enough. And there's certain players in our team that we obviously bought in the summer that might have been slow burners. Like, even when Stack first joined, I wasn't fully convinced on him. Well, we were in pre-season, obviously. He was fantastic in that AC Milan game. But then actually at the start of the season, you thought, I'm not fully sure about this player. And then he found out they had a hip injury and all this sort of stuff, and he came back into it. With Perri, I've never seen that level. I've never seen anything that's made me think, wow, he will be, it's just a bit of time with him and he will be a good goalkeeper. I've never felt that with Perri. I've always felt like he's someone that we should ship on, because fundamentally, I just don't think he's going to improve. And I think that Farke is the same with Perri, and I think that's one of the reasons, obviously, why he's come out of the team, because we just don't feel like he's ever really going to improve. And that's why when I see this bid, I think, you know what it is? That might not be a bad idea, depending on, obviously, the price points, because Leeds United, one we don't want to do is lose this player on a PSR loss. But if we can get to the point where we get somewhere near the money back for Perri, I don't look at this as a really bad deal for Leeds United, because I do think that I don't think he's going to come good, if I'm being honest. That's kind of where I'm at with it. And that is very uncommon for me to say, but I look at his frame. I've talked about this loads of time. If you look at sort of Perri's build, he's 6'5", but he ain't got like if you look at like Robin Roos, for example, at Sunderland, very small, skinny build. He hasn't got that, Perri. He's much more of a stocky build. And I think he struggles to get low down for sort of shots. Like, I've seen a lot of shots going in with Perri where I feel like he's just not got the right frame. And I don't think that's ever going to change. And also, I know, obviously, it's not just about his kicking, but we naturally have got to talk about Perri's kicking. And that is a massive problem. And if you look at the way he actually just kicks the ball, he doesn't look like he's ever kicked a ball in his life before. And again, that's going to take massive improvement. It looks like I'm kicking the football. It kind of looks that bad. And as I said, I don't want to slag him off too much, because as I said, he's a new signing and he's come into the league and all that's true. But I just don't think the match shoots are never really going to improve, if that makes sense. Whereas look at Darlow, and even in the first game we saw him come back when he played against Fulham, and actually I thought he was quite shaky in that game. I still saw a level of calmness to him, and I still saw, even though his kicking was poor, I still saw the technique of him, the way he kicked the ball, at least to be something where you go, all right, well, he's got the technique there, it's just going a bit wrong on the day. So that's kind of where I'm at with Perri. I just don't think it's ever going to... he's one of them players, I just don't think it's ever really going to work. Anyway, let's get into some of his comments. Philip says, all right, mate, That's a bit mad that we've rejected a bid for Perri. Yeah, it is. It just depends on the price point yet, which if anyone can find out this price point, I've obviously been looking online before I went live to try to see if I can get a sort of indication of where the price point is, but we haven't seen that. But surely with this sort of price point as well, again, we do talk a lot about Leeds United and go, Leeds United wouldn't put a bid in unless they thought there was some chance that Leeds United actually would get the player. Well, surely Beşiktaş, again, have probably, I would imagine, have talked to Perri and sort of put their cards down with would actually Perri come to the football club before they go in for him. Naturally, this is what clubs do. And you would have thought as well the bid will be somewhere in the sort of situation where Leeds United are at. Because if they're going to bid, say, £5 million for him, and it would book a Leeds United, say, £10 million loss, well, Leeds United are never going to do that. So surely Beşiktaş know that, and surely Beşiktaş know where we are PSR-wise to an extent. They'll have done the research. So you would expect the bid to be something reasonable. Otherwise, what's the point? What's the point? But I guess this will all come out in good time, and maybe they haven't done the research, and maybe this is a crap bid, and maybe Perri don't even want to go there in the first place. But you would expect there's something in there, surely. And we also know as well with the Turkish clubs traditionally that they do pay good wages. So I'm not 100% sure what Perri's on at Leeds United at this moment in time, but I would imagine he'll get a decent change out of Beşiktaş, but I might be wrong. Easy says, Perri's a good keeper in the first season of the Premier League. As time goes by, I get the feeling many Leeds fans are ignorant on football matters. No, it's not that, mate. I just don't. We've made a lot of signings in the summer. We've made James Justin, Okafors, all these players, but so many players in the summer. We've got, 10 players in the summer. He's the only one, in my opinion, that I look at and don't think he's got the ability. He's the only one. The rest of them, I've always felt it could work with players. But I watch Perri and I just don't see it. I might be wrong, and as easy as me and you disagree at times, easy anyway. But and that's absolutely fine. That's what this channel's all about. But I've never seen put it this way, I've never seen the potential with Perri. I've never seen the potential. He's not like he's a young goalkeeper now. He's experienced. I know it's his first year in the Premier League. I know that, and obviously he's played in the Europa League last year with Lyon. He's played at good levels before. He's played in Liga, and I get all that. But when I watch him play as a footballer and as a goalkeeper, I don't think he has the attributes to work at this level, and that is for me quite a damning statement, because I don't usually write players off that quickly. You just can see it for me. It just looks obvious, in my opinion. Tony says not going to make it. Not going to make the grade, sell. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at, Tony, mate. It really is. Sebastian says, if we're not going to sign another goalkeeper on loan and against the right fee, we can sell Perri. If we're not, we can sell. If we're going to sign another goalkeeper on loan against the right, when we get the right fee, we can sign Perri. Yeah, look, I think obviously if Perri was to go out the door, Leeds United would have to get a replacement. I think that obviously goes without saying. Like I think that's totally plausible, because realistically, we don't be left with just Darlow and Alex Cairns doing Meslier. But maybe the club would just go, well, we'll use Darlow into some worst case scenario, play Meslier. But that to me sounds just horrendous. I mean, that can't happen. I would rather Perri play than Meslier, because I think Mellier's got more mistakes in him and more bigger mistakes in him than Perri. Like Perry's not brilliant, but he doesn't make the sort of mistakes that I see from Meslier, if that makes sense. Like you saw in that Swansea game where he just drops the ball religiously. I don't see that with Perri, I must admit. But I still don't think he's ever going to be a good goalkeeper, and I do think Darlow's a better keeper. If we need cover, I'd be worried if we had back up to Meslier. Yeah, says Gipton White. Yeah, I agree, mate. That's kind of where I'm at. I'm not against selling Perri, and if we can get our money back, to be honest, that's absolutely snap their hands off. But obviously, we'd have to go get a goalkeeper in. I actually think that's possible, though. I do think if we just went in the market to get someone who he's going to play backup, I think that's totally plausible to do. Sell him, bring Trafford in, says John. Well, maybe, look, Man City I don't think would sell James Trafford, but maybe if you sold James Trafford the project of he's been our starting goalkeeper in the Premier League and Darlow goes back to second choice, maybe. But I don't think that was Leeds United's plan going into the transfer window. But obviously but stuff has to change naturally when you see what's going on. When you see that Perri gets the bid, which maybe we didn't think was going to happen, maybe your time has to change. And maybe you go, well, we're going to do a goalkeeper in the summer, but now we've got this deal for Perri that we think we can't reject. Maybe we go get another number one in January. Maybe. I'm not saying that'll happen. I actually don't think it will, but maybe. Scott, you're wrong about the ability of the squad and you were wrong about Perri. Well, maybe I am. But I can still have my opinion, Carl. Jazz says Okafor was a bad buy as well. Oh, look, Okafor wasn't fantastic, but I still see with Okafor sort of potential in him personally. I still look at Okafor and think if he just tightens up his final ball, maybe he can become good. Like you see moments of him, you see like times in games when he's like, wow, he could be a really good player. So I know what you're saying with Okafor, and he's not been good for a few weeks now, but I've seen stuff in him to think that he could be a good player for us. I haven't seen the same with Perri. That's kind of the difference. Gipton White says the worrying part of Perri is he doesn't command his area. He should be a wrecking ball there with his size. Yeah, I agree. I do agree. Perri's worried because between the sticks, kicking. Between the sticks, kicking awful and often makes wrong decisions. Might be a good stopper, but need more from a goalkeeper. I don't think he's a good shot stopper though. I honestly don't think he is. I think that with the frame that he's got, he's not good at getting, because you got, as a keeper, you've got to be really agile. You've got to get down low quick. That's part of the job. I don't think he can do, his size and his frame allows him to do that. He actually reminds me in terms of his frame as Onana. He's that sort of player. Quite happy with Darlow, to be honest. Perri needs to up his game. Until he does, Darlow stays, which I'm fine with. Yeah, I agree. I just think Darlow's a better goalkeeper. I don't think Darlow's. We've talked about this in the channel about about Darlow and where he's at as a goalkeeper. I don't think Darlow's this world-class goalkeeper. I don't think he's brilliant, and I don't think he's the long-term solution for Leeds United going forward as a goalkeeper. And I think before this bid coming, I think this was something that was going to be pushed to the summer. And you go, all right, Darlow will do to the summer, and then hopefully, if we keep up, we can go and get another goalkeeper and maybe move Perri on and put Darlow back to second choice. I think that's what a lot of people wanted to do. But now this comes as an option. You go, well, could you just sell Perri now and go get another goalkeeper that's a first choice, maybe in January? Maybe. I don't know. I don't think keepers really have to adjust that much to the Premier League compared to other players. I think there's a small chance that he can come good, although I doubt it, to be honest. Yeah, exactly. And the thing is with this, when I say that Perri won't come good, that's just my feeling, and obviously Easy disagrees with that, and that's absolutely fine. But it's just a feeling. I just watch him and I just don't see him coming good. But players can surprise me. Players have surprised me in the past, and I've ripped players up before that have gone to do really well. So that can happen. He's just one of them players in the team of probably all signs of the summer that I just don't think will ever come good for Leeds United. In the same way, Ball now he's fine, but I don't think he'll ever be a top centre back because I look at him and I don't think he's got the attributes to ever be a top centre back. Whereas other players, obviously, you think, oh, actually, all right, they're there now, but you could see the development of the player. Like when we bought Ampadu, Ampadu's probably a bad example because he was good straight away and has been good sort of ever since. But certain players, you've always seen the development there with them, and you could go, well, they could upgrade there, and I think they will upgrade there, and they could be a better player. Just don't see it with Perri. If the club agree that Perri isn't first choice, then they can either sell Darlow in the summer and keep Perri second choice, or sell Perri and keep Darlow second choice. Although he is fairly old now. Well, with the money that I imagine Darlow, with your goalkeepers, you don't. Perri will be on, because we bought Perri in the summer to be our number one choice goalkeeper. He will be on a first choice goalkeeper in the Premier League wage, quote unquote. That's what he'll be on. You don't want two of your goalkeepers on first choice wages. You want, the wage structure will be, you've got Darlow on his wage, which will be a second choice goalkeeper wage, and then you'll have Perri on a first choice goalkeeper wage. So in the summer, ideally, for wage structure and how wage structures are built, you ideally want to move, probably you want to keep Darlow ideally as your second choice goalkeeper with his wage, and then you want to bring in another one unless Perri improves from now to the end of the season. But obviously, if we sold Perri in January, you'd then probably free up your wage bills to the point where you could get another first choice goalkeeper in January. Okafor was okay to start with, hasn't really kicked on. We should judge him over the whole season. 20 games isn't a lot, so let's see after a season. Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Tim says, sell. Perri wasn't a disastrous signing. 18 million wasted. Yeah, I think I'm not quite as strong as that, mate, but I get your sentiment completely. How many transfers do you think we'll get in before the end of the window, and do you think we'll get Jørgen Strand Larsen? I said on yesterday's stream that I still felt he was going to end up going to Palace. And I still feel he's going to end up going to Palace. There's been reports come out this morning back from a few people who were quite reliable, saying that basically Strand Larsen will sort of, the Palace is still there on the table. It's just going to be a case of renegotiating that fee, and maybe not, they don't quite want to pay the sort of £50 million, which I think is sensible, because I don't think 50 million was worth it. And I think sort of Steve Parish at Crystal Palace probably realised that actually they were going to end up paying too much and they didn't need to go that much, and they're potentially lowering the bid. I personally think Bornau has been far better than expected. He's played against some good teams and looks solid. If he's okay with being second choice, then he's worth keeping. Exactly. But again, like with Bornau, mate, he'll be on a second choice centre-back wage, if that makes sense. So it's, when you've got your wage bill, that's how it all is. Michael says, James Trafford would be my goalkeeper if Perri goes. Yeah, look, James Trafford would be absolutely perfect. The issue with James Trafford will be, will Man City want to lose their second choice goalkeeper in January? But I think they still do have Ortega there, don't they? So maybe they look at it and go, well, Ortega go back to number 2. We'll get rid of Trafford. But again, they signed Trafford for like £40 million, so it was only have to be a loan deal in January. But maybe. Look, I'd be well open to that. I'm getting messages as if something's actually happening, so I'm not so sure. But Palace are going down. JCL shouldn't go there. Yeah, you've been saying that for a long time, but the thing is with Palace going down is obviously West Ham are still 8 points behind Palace. So are they gonna? They'd have to win. Palace have to get back on points. They'd have to win 3 more games from now until the end of the season. There's only 16 games left than Palace. Are West Ham going to win 3 more games than Palace between now and the end of the season? I would say no. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. Trafford probably sees himself as the long-term City keeper, so doubt we'll get him. The only thing is that Donnarumma's not that old, is he? So look, I don't think that's possible. I do think though, people might disagree here. I do think it's possible to recruit a goalkeeper in January though, a first-choice goalkeeper in January. People don't like recruiting goalkeepers because it's not a position you want to keep changing over and over again. And Farke's talked about this a long time on the a lot of times, sort of since being at the football club. And I think one of the reasons they didn't change Meslier for the longest time was that obviously there was a situation there where you didn't want to keep changing it because you want to keep your defence ideally playing. You want to have the same back 4 and goalkeeper, or in our case back 5 and goalkeeper week in, week out, to build that continuity there. It's massively important that you do that, and that's why you don't want to interchange your keepers all the time. So I think that's one of the reasons why they might not look at doing a keeper in January, and that's maybe why they might not sell Perri. I would disagree with that though, and I do think it's possible to recruit someone in January. I also think with Perri, if a bit of a sort of long shot statement maybe, I don't think that Farke ever wanted Perri, and I think the reason you can tell that that's the case is if you look at the treatment that Perri's had in comparison to Meslier last year, or in comparison even this year to other players, it's been drastically different. Because every time I say that, someone goes, "Oh yeah, but Meslier was last year when he treated him that way, Scott, and this year he's learnt from last year." Maybe that's true. But he didn't learn with Aronson early in the year when he was playing garbage week on week and just played him when every single person and basically the dog who went to the games was saying and sort of watched online was saying you can't keep playing Aronson. I know Aronson's come good, but at that point it was almost indefensible to play him, if you remember where it was at the start of the season. So I don't think it's a case of Farke changing. I think it's a case that Farke didn't like Perri. And if you listen to sort of the square ball, who obviously they've got sort of they've got sort of people in the club naturally that they talk to, they came on a few months ago and talked about the Perri signing, and they said with it that basically in the summer there was a case where the board wanted one goalkeeper, which I don't know who he was, and they didn't say who he was, and Farke wanted a different goalkeeper. And then because of Leon's situation financially, Perri became available in the market, which they didn't expect to be an option, and they went, all right, well, he might be a mix of both, what we both want, and let's go get Perri, who's maybe in the middle. And fundamentally, I just don't think that's what Farke wanted. And again, I think the treatment you've seen with Perri and the reason he's took him out the team so quick, and the reason that you've seen him slander him in the press and sort of, or not slander him in the press, but sort of critique him in the press like he has done, for me is because it wasn't his first choice side. And I think he wanted to do another goalkeeper. And I think with his actions, that's kind of blatantly obvious, but I might be wrong. We can check where Palace are after 3 or 4 games. A couple of wins gets them some breathing space, but no wins will spell trouble. It will do, but it'll depend on, like, in the next 3 games, if West Ham don't win any of theirs, and they've got Chelsea away and Man United, who I think probably going to get better at this moment, just because of how they're looking at this moment. If they don't win either of them 2, and they maybe only beat Burnley, or don't beat Burnley as well, who've actually been on a decent run for drawing games themselves, then Palace will be pretty safe no matter how many points they've picked up. Jason says, I really hope we have a good backup for JCL, but I can't imagine DCL up top being lethal both physically and prove they can finish. I think with signings, and I thought this, to be fair, the Perri news does slightly change this, but I've felt the whole time that with our striker situation, it's Strand, Larsen or bust. And I felt that overall, to be honest, that it's kind of Strand, Larsen or bust as signings. But obviously, if Perri was to leave the football club, then maybe that opens up an option for the goalkeeping situation to bring in a new goalkeeper. But I think at the moment that is that's kind of where we're at with that, really. I'm sure the players that Leeds can get better value for money than JCL. 45 million plus him is a big gamble. Leeds have paid nothing to get DCL and Nemecha and have better goal return. They do so far this season, mate. We've talked a lot about Strand Larsen, so I don't want to talk too much. But one thing we didn't probably mention yesterday, and I have mentioned it before with Strand Larsen, is He's missing, like, that Wolves team is terrible, and strikers rely on service. And they took the main 2 creators of service out of the Wolves team. Cunha went to Man United, of course, and Aït-Nouri went to Man City. You take them 2 players out, and it does make a massive difference to a striker. And Calvert-Lewin wouldn't have scored any goals this year if it weren't for service. So, you know, the more chances you get as a striker, the more goals you're going to score. The reason every single year that Haaland has scored the most goals, but if you check, he also misses the most chances every year because he gets the most chances because he's a good footballer. I'm getting a bit of a dry mouth. Massive weekend ahead for Leeds. Lose in the early kickoff and West Ham playing later on Saturday could be a 2-point gap. Yeah, potentially. Hopefully not, though. We will obviously have the normal stream at 8 PM today. It was just a case that there was something that went live that I sort of feel like we needed to cover. Farke's become more ruthless this season in terms of leaving players out. If they're not performing like Tanaka and Harrison, to get into Farke team, you have to be tip-top. You've got to up your game like Aronson and BL to an extent, mate, but let's not, as I said, let's not forget that at the start of the season, he was playing Aronson week in, week out, over and over again, and literally the world was saying that you can't continue to do that. I might get my brother to bring me a drink. Give me a sec. Let's have a look. I think Larsen will go to Forest. That's a bit of an odd take, mate. I haven't seen a lot of that, but potentially. If we don't get a striker, then DCL and Nemecha get injured. We do have options, but we need to change the style of play, which I don't think we will want to. I don't think Farke loves the sort of 2 up front. And I know people like the 2 up front, but I don't think he's in love with it, if I'm being honest. I think Larsen will go to Forest. I said that. I think we need JCLs, as we have seen DCL's been isolating, has proved he plays much better with another number 9. Yeah, he has, but I quite like the system. I quite like this system, and I think Aronson's improved massively since he's gone into this system just behind Dominic Calvert-Lewin. I think that's been a massive help, to be honest. So I don't know. I'm not all with that. I'm gonna quickly go grab a drink, people. Be back in literally a second. Sorry about that. I'm literally back. I'm getting a bit of a dry mouth there, and I've never had that before actually on stream, but I was. I think we need to go. We need Jürgen Strand Larsen. I've seen as DCL is more isolated as he's proved he's much better. Relax. Let Scott run his show. I'm not sure what you mean. He skipped 2 of my very insightful comments. What he's on about? Stop skipping my comments or I'll give you a thumbs down. Mate, I'm not trying to. I've said a few times, I can't, when the channel grows, I can't promise I can read every single comment out. I think I've read a lot of yours out, mate, but I can't promise I can read every single one. I've always said that. Look, when the channel's been smaller, it's been much easier, but it naturally just gets more difficult as the channel gets bigger. But if you can tell, if you've got one that I've missed, then just put it in again and I'm sure I'll read it out. I think we need JCLs. We haven't seen DCL isolated and proven. I think I've read them all. If we don't get a striker, then DCL and Nemecha get injured. We do have options, but we have to change the style of play, which I don't think we'll want to do. Yeah, I did read that. I don't think it's the 2 up front he doesn't like. I think it's he just doesn't trust Nemecha enough at the moment. I think the thing with Nemecha is, and I've thought this for a while actually, and one of the reasons I think why he doesn't play is basically because if you play Nemecha and DCL up front, and one of them gets injured, then obviously. He said this before about centre-backs. He said one of the reasons he didn't go to back 3 sooner was because Bornau was injured. And everyone went, what you on about? And what he meant was, if we want to play that system, you almost need a backup. And again, in the same way, if you want to play with 2 up front, you need your 2 strikers. And soon then he gets injured, it makes it more tricky. Scott, as your channel is growing, you will look to do Scott, as your channel is growing, will you look to do collaboration with other Leeds podcasters? Yeah, I need to do that, mate. I'm a bit of a solo warrior, but I do need to interact with you. But I do talk to a few people in DMs. And I've done a show with Imagine Not Being Leeds before. He's a nice guy, Matty. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe I'll have to get in touch with him at some point. But we have talked before. Anyway, I might wrap up the show there because it's getting a bit quieter now. And I feel like we've covered the whole Perri news. Obviously, we will be back at 8 p.m. talking about Jørgen Strand Larsen. And I will try read everyone's comments out. Apologies, but it obviously just get more tricky naturally with more people coming in. Yeah, but I will be back at 8 p.m. We'll obviously cover the Arsenal game as well because it's a massive game. And I actually do think with the Arsenal game, I don't want to spoil too much that's going on in the 8 p.m. show, but I actually do think Leeds United can get something in that game. And I was actually listening to the overlap today, and even Gary Neville, who's a Scum fan, reckons that we might get a 1-1 draw. So, you know, maybe. Scott, we do have a natural forward back up behind DCL, Nemecha in pro. We don't though because he's a very different profile. He's a different profile, so not quite. What I mean is we don't get. What I mean is if that DCL is out, he'll play the. What I mean is that if DCL is out, he'll play Nemecha. If they're both out, he doesn't have that profile. He can play pro or non-toe, say, but we'll have to play a different style. Yeah, no, I see what you mean. I do see what you mean. I think we need to get a goalkeeper and an equality position and like backups to. Genuine screwed and Nemecha's injured a lot. I'm not fully. I've butchered that comment. Anyway, as I said, I'm going to wrap up the show there. Thanks all for watching, as always. And as I said, I will see you at 8 p.m. as we talk all about Arsenal. And we obviously will cover the latest news. Probably something else is going to drop. We might even find out the price that the bid has begun in for Perri as well. Anyway, see you later, everybody. Bye for now. Oh, and thanks for watching as well. And also, if you've just joined, if you could, we've talked about Leeds United for now 26 minutes and 33 seconds. So you're more than welcome to skip back.